Now, before we start this lecture, I want to say, for those of you who are my students from previous courses, more specifically, my very first Bootstrap, Code Responsive Websites with Bootstrap course, I used to call this specific thing we're going to code, I used to pronounce it funny. So I used to call it Modal, like a Modal window. It just seemed more romantic. It seemed very eloquent. You know, pop up the Modal window. See what I mean? It just has a better effect. Launch the demo Modal. You see? But many of you just thought that sounded silly, and technically it's not how you say it. You say it Modal. It sounds stupid. Launch the Modal window, guys. There you go. Launch the Modal. You know what I mean? I don't really like that. But anyway, to appease everybody out there, I'm going to call it Modal. Modal window. Just like that. Every time I say the word modal, I'm going to say it like I'm yodeling. You know what I mean? Anyway, that was very weird. So yeah, we're going to code some modal windows. And here's just a demo here on the Bootstrap doc site. There's a modal window right there. It just pops down. You put content in the modal window, and you've got a little X and close and save and all that good stuff right there. So we're going to code that modal window or our own version in our HTML here. So go ahead, create a new file called modal.html. Basic Bootstrap stuff here. Make sure you got your Bootstrap styles and your custom styles. You got your Bootstrap jQuery plugins or JavaScript plugins, all the good stuff. Make sure you got that going. Copy it from the course files folder if you are confused. And yeah, here we go. We got this page header here already set up. You don't need it, but it is what it is. So we need to be able to code the modal window, but also have a button that triggers the modal to open, because modal windows aren't open by default, because that doesn't make sense. They're there for additional functionality. So let's start off by coding the trigger. So button, very easy. Type, it's a button. It's not a link or anything like that. It's just a button. Class, button, let's say button danger. Button, let's go large. And then it's going to data toggle. This is important because this accesses the JavaScript plugins that Bootstrap built in. This is modal, the modal window. Data target, update, credit card. And this is what we're going to select. Well, that's going to be the ID of the modal window itself. And this is just going to say update, credit card as the information. And now we need to start to code the actual modal window. So I'm just going to say modal here. I'm going to go ahead and start with a div. And that's going to have the class of modal and fade. Now, modal is going to give it the, basically allow us to use the CSS that's built into Bootstrap. And fade is just the CSS animation that they built into Bootstrap to allow it to fade down. You can remove this class altogether and it won't fade down. It will just appear. But this is just much sexier. It kind of gives it that modal window effect. You know what I mean? Okay, so we're also going to give it the ID of update credit card, and that is going to allow it to be selected by this trigger. Now hang tight, we got some more markup to add in here. Let's go ahead and start with the div with the class of modal-dialog. Now this is going to be the actual dialog window itself, so it's important you add that. Now in the modal dialog div, we need to add a div with the class of modal-content, and that's the content. And close up that div. Inside your modal content div, we have div with the class of modal-header. And we have another div with the class of modal-body. And then one last div with the class of modal-footer. So pretty semantic little layout here. Okay, so we're going to start with the header. It's going to have a button, and that button is going to have the type attribute of button. It's going to have the class of close. It's going to close the modal window. It's going to have a style built in. This is a Bootstrap class. Styles it to look nice. And data-dismiss. This is built in to the JavaScript plugins. So data dismiss modal. It's going to dismiss the modal window. And it's actually going to access Bootstrap jQuery plugin to close the modal window, because we need to be able to close what we opened. Good user experience. Span tag, just really quick. All you need to do is just add an HTML times entity. So ampersand times semicolon. That's going to give you the little X or the times symbol, and it will be styled using the close class. Beside that, we'll have a level 4 heading. You can add any level heading you would like, but I'm just going to say level 4. And it's going to have the class of modal-title. In there, we're going to add a span. This is for fun. Class of glyph icon and glyph icon dash credit dash card. I told you there is a glyph icon for almost any user case. So that will be a credit card icon. Update credit card. Now, beside that, we're going to start adding content to the modal body right here. So inside our modal body, we're just going to add a form. Inside that form, div with the class of form-group. And in that form group, we're going to have a label. It's just going to say name on card, just something real quick. Input with the type of text. And it's going to have a placeholder that says name on card. There we go. And it needs to have the class of form-control. And I'm just going to copy this, paste it, change this up a little bit, and just say credit card number. Placeholder will say credit card number. Form control, good to go. And that's all you need to do there. Now we need to work with the modal footer. This is just going to have a couple buttons in here, one to cancel and one to submit. Button, type, button. The first one will have the class of BTN and BTN-default. And the data-dismiss attribute, modal. It's going to dismiss the modal window. Let's say cancel. And another button. This one's going to be type of submit to submit the form. Well, in theory, this should actually be wrapping around the entire thing. So what you could do is just take form out here. Let's just do it all together, shall we? Take the form out there. I'm going to tab this backwards. And instead of div class modal fade, let's just make the entire thing a form. Why not? I don't think it will wreck any styles. I think we're good to go. Now the button will be a submit button for the form itself, and any input you have in here will be an actual input within the form. Great. So type submit. This is going to have the class of BTN and BTN primary, and let's just say save changes. Save that, and let's check it out in our browser. Here is our trigger. Click it. There's our modal window. Update credit card with the credit card icon, name on card, credit card number. This closes the window. Same with the X. And save changes will submit the form as it did there. You can see with the query string. Obviously, we're not submitting any data right now, but that is what it is. Now, you can do two extra things here with the modal window. You can make it small and large really easily by changing a couple classes. Or adding a couple classes, rather. So the modal dialog, just add modal-sm for small, and it will look like so. And that looks a bit better, actually, with this specific modal window. And you can add modal-lg to make it large if you're having a content-heavy modal window, and it will be larger. One other thing to note, it is responsive, built right in, so that is beautiful. So on your mobile devices, your modal windows will work absolutely smashingly. So play around with the modal windows, add them to your sites if you want to. And yeah, play around, read the docs here, Bootstrap, getbootstrap.com, JavaScript modals right here. It's just got a little bit more that we didn't quite cover in the lecture. Just a couple little things. In fact, we covered most of it. But yeah, play around with that. Check it out, read the docs, bookmark that, and see you in the next lecture, folks. Modal. So much better.